In 2008, Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots definitively concluded the story of Solid Snake, a hero first unveiled in 1987 who went on to become one of the most celebrated characters in video games. Despite one chapter being complete, a driving force of Metal Gear and the genetic father of Snake, Big Boss, left behind many unanswered questions. His beginnings are unveiled in Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, but the founding of Outer Heaven, one of the most important locations in the series, and Big Boss's transformation into a villain, had not yet been covered. In 2010, the tale of Big Boss continued, not on current generation consoles, but instead on a handheld, the PlayStation Portable. Peace Walker did not start as a Kojima game. The father of Metal Gear intended to just lay out the overall concepts and guidelines, and then let the rest of the development team take the reins. Yet as the themes of Peace Walker started coming together, such as nuclear deterrence and the Cold War, Kojima worried it may be too confusing and alienating to a younger audience, the target demographic. As a result, Kojima became more involved, serving as director, producer, and writer, in an effort to keep the narrative as clear as possible. He wasn't quite ready to hand the series off. The young target audience was also the reason yellow is such a dominant color in the game. Konami wanted Peace Walker to have more of a pop feel to it that appealed to school-age kids. While it's not entirely clear why Konami was so interested in getting the attention of a younger crowd, it's possible that the success of the Monster Hunter franchise was an influence.
Talking cat.
During Peace Walker's development, Monster Hunter was a national sensation in Japan, with 2008's Monster Hunter Freedom Unite eventually selling 3.7 million units. Since Peace Walker first released on the PSP, one of the most popular ways to play Monster Hunter at the time, it's likely that Konami wanted to capture the same audience. The idea is given further credence by Konami's collaboration with Capcom for Peace Walker. In the game, players can unlock special missions where they face off with bosses from Monster Hunter, including one named Gear Rex, also known as Nuclear Dragon. In an interview with Famitsu, a popular Japanese video game magazine, Kojima candidly stated that Peace Walker wasn't as visually impressive as his past games, but that wasn't the point. Kojima said that you had to play Peace Walker in order to get it, referring to the various new systems and how they play off one another. Perhaps the most surprising information from the interview is an unexpected point of inspiration. At the time, Kojima's son was fascinated with Pokemon Gold and Silver, and his father didn't understand why until he got his hands on them. Kojima loved them so much that he ended up playing through them twice. He went as far as to say he was addicted. In Pokemon Gold and Silver, after you play through the main area of the game Johto, you gain access to a completely redone version of Kanto from Pokemon Red and Blue, the two preceding games. Peace Walker also features vital story sequences after the credits for players who fulfill specific requirements. At the time of Peace Walker's release, it was the most involved post-credit content in a Metal Gear game, and it was seemingly inspired by Kojima's experience with Pokemon.
Something tells me you're no ordinary entomologist.
I've been waiting, Snake.
The age of heroes is over, buried alongside the boss and her bankrupt beliefs.
While Peace Walker gives the player a lot to do, the story is undoubtedly one of the game's biggest draws. It begins after the events of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater and Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops. Snake Eater is an especially vital part of Big Boss's story because it details his relationship with the Boss, a legendary soldier and his former mentor. The Boss remains true to her country despite being used by the United States government and having her reputation permanently tarnished. Disgusted by what happened to the Boss, Snake decides to create the MSF, also known as Soldiers Without Borders. The idea of the group is that it exists without government influence, preventing soldiers from being disgraced like the Boss. Free from ideology, the group can fight wherever and whenever needed. Big Boss, along with second-in-command Kazuhira Miller, establishes a ragtag base of operations along the coast of Colombia. And it's here where the story of Peace Walker begins.
No offense, but I don't know what peace is. Never felt what it's like. Never even been interested in it.
Big Boss and Kaz are visited by Ramon Galvez, a KGB agent, and Paz Ortega, a young student whose only desire is peace. Galvez wants to hire MSF to uncover the CIA's suspicious activities in Costa Rica and drive them out of the region. Big Boss is resistant until Galvez plays him a tape recorded by Paz's captured friend. On the tape, the voice of the boss is clearly heard, even though she's been dead for a decade.
It will bite you unless you kill it. Go home.
Boss.
It causes a rush of emotions in Big Boss, who hurriedly agrees to the job after Galvez threatens to burn the tape. Big Boss claims he accepts on behalf of Paz and her dreams of peace, but it's really because he wants to know the source of the voice. The boss did not rise from the dead. Instead, an AI called MammalPod was constructed in her image with a voice that's eerily similar. MammalPod partly controls a quadrupedal nuclear weapon known as Peace Walker, envisioned by Hot Coldman, the CIA station chief of Central America, as the perfect nuclear deterrent. According to Coldman, humans are incapable of retaliation after a nuclear strike, unable to cope with the fact that they'd be responsible for killing hundreds of thousands of innocent lives. Because of this, an AI-controlled deterrent is necessary for peace since it won't hesitate, coldly collecting data and striking when needed. What better mind to control Peace Walker than the boss, a perfect soldier who stayed true to her mission no matter what. To prove Peace Walker's capabilities, Coldman insists on launching a nuke, demonstrating the weapon's power to the world.
A new age is dawning. An age in which Peace Walker, an infallible nuclear deterrent system, will play a vital role.
One of Peace Walker's biggest successes from a narrative standpoint is the growth of Big Boss as a character. Despite his growling disposition when dealing with others, Big Boss crumbles when he encounters the AI version of his former mentor. He completely loses composure, screaming at the machine. Everything Snake thinks he knows about the woman who changed his life may be a lie, causing him to panic.
Why did she take that mission? How did she feel about dying? Why was I chosen?
You want to know the truth?
The game shows Big Boss in an intimate way, presenting his vulnerabilities openly, despite his iconic status as a hero and eventual villain. Peace Walker doesn't just follow Metal Gear Solid 3, it shows the audience the lasting effects of that game's events, and how they played a crucial role in further developments. While Peace Walker contains its own ideas, it's very concerned about untangling the emotional aftermath of MGS3 in a fulfilling way.
The missing link between infantry and artillery. Metal Gear. Metal Gear.
The boss's death affects not only Big Boss, but others as well, including a new character named Dr. Strangelove. The female scientist idolizes the boss so much that she agrees to develop the MammalPod AI in an attempt to resurrect her, even though it will directly lead to a nuclear attack. Strangelove shows the danger of pursuing something at the cost of everything else, a classic Metal Gear theme, and one that rests at the very core of Big Boss's character. During his journey, Big Boss encounters many who have been betrayed. Among them are Amanda and Chico, part of a guerrilla group run out of Nicaragua by a ruthless regime. The group struggles to hold itself together, especially after the death of their leader, but Big Boss gives them a home through MSF and a renewed spirit. Throughout the history of Metal Gear, players are told of the founding of Outer Heaven, but in Peace Walker, we actually get to see Big Boss's ability to galvanize an independent army.
Molten recovery subject confirmed onboard helicopter.
Peace Walker doesn't just talk about the blossoming military organization of Big Boss. It lets players build it for themselves. During missions, Big Boss can extract knocked out soldiers, bringing them back to base and assigning them to a specific area. Each of these areas is critical and helps Big Boss in the field. The only way to acquire new weapons, for instance, is to research them, which takes time and spends a currency known as GMP, or Gross Military Product. GMP isn't free. The currency is accumulated through the combat unit, and the stronger the soldier assigned to the unit, the more GMP earned. Even in the best of circumstances, GMP is extremely limited, and development costs are high, leading to difficult decisions where you have to prioritize the development of one weapon or item at the cost of something else. R&D, or the combat unit, cannot function without food, forcing you to ensure the mess hall team is well staffed. Create an excess of food, and soldiers will perform better than normal, leading to things like faster research times. But a lack of food has the opposite effect.
We're under attack!
All of these different aspects are connected, with each relying on the other. Never before had a Metal Gear game offered such an overwhelming amount of choice, nor demanded such a constant commitment. Not only were players responsible for choosing what to bring into battle and how to use it, but also what items they had access to and what they were willing to put at risk to create them. For example, you can send members of the combat unit on special missions, and if successful, they'll return with blueprints for items and a significant amount of GMP. There's also a very real possibility of them getting killed during these missions, meaning you could lose access to valuable staff. The new systems not only apply to the development of your base, but also affect minute-to-minute gameplay during missions. It's imperative to extract knocked-out soldiers, but doing so puts you at greater risk of being discovered. Players are also restricted with how many soldiers they can bring back to base, since the Fulton recovery devices, special balloons that instantly transport people, are limited in quantity. Before Peace Walker, Metal Gear was largely about traveling along a linear path toward a single objective, preferably through the use of stealth. Though that's also true in Peace Walker, there's so much more to think about at any given moment, since even the smallest decisions impact something else. Freedom of choice carries over into the boss battles. While it's possible to simply destroy the armored vehicles, tanks, and helicopters thrown your way, you can take the more difficult route of killing the pilots, preserving the vehicles for later use in deployment missions. The various mechs you face off against also offer rewards depending on how you fight them. Damaging different sections of the mech unlocks salvaged parts that players can acquire after the fight, which go toward the development of your own Metal Gear, Zeke. Completing Zeke is necessary for those who want to continue the story after the credits. Although Metal Gear is predominantly known for its single-player, Peace Walker features robust multiplayer components. 2 players can sneak together through the main missions, while up to 4 players can participate in the numerous boss battles. Missions are designed in such a way to give an edge to those who choose to play together, such as having shortcuts only accessible with the help of someone else. Additionally, there are actions that can only be done with a friend, including Snake In, where 2 players hold each other, one guides and the other shoots. There's also the Love Box that allows a duo to hide in a single cardboard box. Players who want a more competitive experience can participate in Versus Ops with up to 6 players. Peace Walker launched on June 8, 2010 to widespread critical acclaim. Several outlets stated the game acts as an excellent amalgamation of the series' best aspects, praising the story and base management sections especially. Common criticism cited that the complex MGS3-style gameplay didn't fit well in a handheld, and that the environments were too small. A year later, on November 8th, the Metal Gear Solid HD Collection was released, containing updated versions of Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, and Peace Walker. The new version of Peace Walker made use of the right stick on 360 and PS3, and also added rumble support. In Japan, Peace Walker sold over 570,000 copies during its first 2 weeks. Despite internal hopes that Peace Walker would be an international hit, sales were very poor outside of Japan, failing to chart in most countries. According to Kojima, weak sales of Peace Walker are what caused Kazuhira Miller to be removed from the international versions of Ground Zeroes. Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker is not only a worthy addition, it revolutionizes with ambitious new systems that serve as the blueprint for following games. It further establishes the mythos of Big Boss, while also re-examining crucial moments from Metal Gear Solid 3. Peace Walker demonstrably shows that Hideo Kojima can create something enthralling, regardless of platform. Kojima and Konami are currently celebrating the release of The Phantom Pain. The game launched on September 1st to rave reviews, yet it wouldn't have been possible without Peace Walker, which introduced so many of the core concepts expanded upon in Phantom Pain. Despite initially coming out on a portable system, Peace Walker was given the same respect and effort as any other game in the series, with Kojima even referring to it as the Metal Gear Solid 5 I have in my heart before release. Other franchises have tried adapting themselves to smaller devices, but few have done it with such ambition and grace.